So our first topic today is asking why teams so often completely drop the ball when it comes to choosing who to draft at the quarterback position early in the NFL draft. Now here's some names that might be residing deep in your memory of NFL busts. Jake Locker, who was picked 8th overall in the 2011 draft by the Titans. Heath Shuler, picked 3rd overall in the 1994 NFL draft by the Redskins. Ryan Leaf, picked 2nd overall in the 98 NFL draft. And Jamarcus Russell, picked number 1 in the 2007 NFL draft. These are the players I'm going to talk about today because I believe they are the absolute worst on a list that expands well past comprehension, the list of first-round quarterback busts. In this section, though, everything is going to be pointing back towards a common theme or question, which is normally how I do things here, similar to last week with the James White section. This section's question is focusing on why NFL teams screw up so often on early quarterback draft picks. Granted, there are a lot of successful picks as well, but with millions of dollars, jobs on the line, and a multi-million-dollar organization riding on a team of experts to choose the right man, you'd figure quarterback busts would be a lot less common. Yet, here we are. So let's start by looking at these QBs that I listed and the how and why to their infamous title of a draft bust. First off, we have Jake Locker. Jake Locker was chosen 8th overall in the 2011 draft by the Tennessee Titans. Top 10 pick would end up going 9-14 in his career with the Titans, ultimately retiring in 2014 after just 3 years in the NFL, an injury-filled career. So where did the scouts go wrong on this one? In his first real college season, or at least his first season in which he actually had playing time, Locker ended up breaking several records. He set UW records for rushing yards in a season by a freshman with 968, rushing yards in a season by a quarterback, also a Pac-10 record there, rushing attempts by a quarterback, 172, passing yards by a freshman with over 2,000, touchdown passes by a freshman with 14, and the longest pass completion with a 98-yard pass to Marcel Reese in a game against Arizona. His second season was ultimately a failure, with a controversial unsportsmanlike conduct call costing his team the game, as well as the worst season in program history. His third season was a bit better, but as expected, not amazing due to playing on an unranked team. The unranked Washington team was led by Locker and finished with a 5-7 record, but was highlighted by an upset win over USC and an upset win over California State. His performance in his third season did not go unnoticed, though, as he was rewarded the Male Sports Star of the Year award and the 75th Annual Seattle Male Sports Star Awards. In his final season, Locker decided to continue his tenure with Washington rather than move into a top-level program. This season wasn't much better, though, as he remained with a losing college record by the end of it, and he was heavily criticized for a 4-20 performance in a blowout loss early in the season. Now, for this one, I think the scouts were simply too ignorant in part of the Titans. It was revealed later on that Tennessee was hooked onto his strong arm and his ability to really shoot the football like a bullet from a rifle, although this love of Locker's arm ended up clouding their common sense, as they picked a quarterback top 10 in the NFL draft who had a 53.9 completion percentage and just 7,600 yards over the course of 4 college seasons, not to mention an average 53 touchdowns to 35 picks. Not exactly top 10 talent. Next up, let's look to Heath Shuler, one of the biggest draft busts in NFL history. Under head coaches Johnny Majors and Philip Fulmer, Shuler gained national attention as one of the SEC's top quarterbacks. After a small role in the 1991 season behind quarterback Andy Kelly, he became a top-level passer. In the 1992 season, he passed for 1,712 passing yards, 10 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions as Tennessee finished with a 9-3 record. In his third season, or the 1993 season, Shuler racked up 2,300 yards to go along with 25 touchdowns, coming second place in the race for the Heisman Trophy. Now, to start his NFL career. He was selected 3rd overall by the Washington Redskins in '94 and started out his NFL career with a holdout in hopes of a better long-term contract. This holdout was successful as he was given a 7-year, $19.25 million contract. The Redskins were hoping that Shuler was the quarterback of the future and were hoping that he would lead them back to the Super Bowl. This was not the case, though, as in just his first NFL season, Schuler's name in the Redskins organization was riddled with media coverage of a quarterback controversy. A 7th-round pick by the name of Gus Frerotte began to gain backing from fans around the league, especially after Schuler's disastrous 5-interception performance against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, Schuler would only start in 18 games over his 3-year tenure with the Cardinals, as he was benched in his 3rd season, replaced by Frerotte. After Schuler lost value to the Cardinals, they decided to trade him to the New Orleans Saints for a 5th and a 3rd-round pick. This would ultimately be a failed trade for the Saints, and Schuler's statistics only remained poor. In the 97 season, Schuler suffered a serious foot injury that would ultimately speak the end of his NFL career. And after being signed by Oakland, his foot would be re-injured during training camp with the Raiders, and Schuler would ultimately be cut that offseason and would retire just a few short months later. So overall, the top 3 pick would finish his NFL career with a passer rating of 54.3. Although, Schuler would find success in other areas, as he would go on to become an established real estate agent, as well as a 5-year tenure with the House of Representatives within North Carolina. Ultimately, though, it seems that Schuler was the result of putting a good player into a terrible situation. The Redskins were a team no better than a team of bench warmers, and the shift from a top-level team in his college career to a supporting cast that could, well, not support him, was something he couldn't adjust to. Not to mention, Washington has a history of turning good college players into bad NFL careers. Next up is Ryan Leaf. I think we've all heard the name, but just to recap, Ryan Leaf was considered a number 1 draft prospect going into the NFL draft, but was ultimately passed on by the Colts for Peyton Manning, a choice that likely earned the Colts GM a pay raise. Leaf finished his college career as a finalist for the Heisman Trophy, Pac-10 Offensive Player of the Year, and first-team All-American, as well as 2nd in the nation in passer rating. So as you can see, Leaf was a very, very likable prospect, and he ended up forgoing his senior year at Washington State to enter the 1998 NFL Draft. So overall, a lot of scouts deemed Peyton Manning as the more mature player pick, which was ironic, as this turned out being one of the best analysis points in NFL history. In the Colts' analysis of Leaf, it was said that he was confident to the point where he could be seen as arrogant or even obnoxious. Now, one big red flag for the Colts was the fact that Leaf gained 20 pounds between the end of his junior season and the NFL Combine, which was described as a negative signal about his self-discipline and maturity. Now, the San Diego Chargers held the 3rd overall pick and had arguably the worst offense in the league the season prior, and they desperately needed a new quarterback, so they went for the number 2 pick. They traded their 3rd overall pick, a future first-rounder, a 2nd-rounder, and a 3-time Pro Bowler, all for Ryan Leaf. And the Chargers ended up drafting Leaf with the 2nd overall pick and rewarded him with a $31 million rookie contract capped off with an $11 million signing bonus, which had been the largest signing bonus given to a rookie ever. Leaf's first NFL season was marred by poor behavior, topped off with poor play. He racked himself up a $10,000 fine before the season even began, although he performed well in the preseason. In the Chargers' September 20th game against the Chiefs, Leaf threw 2 picks, fumbled 4 times, and threw just 1 completion. After the game, he was caught on camera cursing at a reporter and had to be pulled away by fellow teammates and coaches. And in Week 4, Leaf threw 4 interceptions in the first half and was ultimately benched. But he would go on to finish his first NFL season with 1,200 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 15 interceptions, and a sub-50 completion percentage, earning him a deathly 39 quarterback rating. Leaf became known for having a poor work ethic and blaming his teammates for his poor play. In the end of the season, it was even said that Junior Seau called on management to sign a veteran quarterback and wrote, "Get a guy in here not to babysit, but to win." Leaf would miss the 99 season with a shoulder injury suffered 20 minutes into training camp, somewhat poetic justice, saving the Chargers from another abysmal season. Leaf finished his career with just 3,600 passing yards over 4 seasons, along with 14 touchdowns to 36 picks and a 48% completion percentage. Truly a terrible draft choice. Overall, the problem with Leaf had nothing to do with his talent and everything to do with attitude. Again, this reminds me of Locker when the Titans were clouded by one thing which kept them from seeing the rest of the player. The Chargers were so utterly desperate for a quarterback that could lead their offense that they didn't bother making sure the quarterback was who they truly wanted to spend a number 2 pick on. The signs were definitely there, but raw talent can't make up for a poor work ethic and a poor attitude. Ryan Leaf is the perfect example of that. Now, the last player I'll go over in this section is Jamarcus Russell. Being a player who was at one point compared to NFL greats before even being drafted, I'd say he's arguably the biggest draft bust in NFL history, especially considering he was a number 1 overall pick. Russell played college football at LSU and finished 21-4 as a starter. In his early college career, he spent most of his time on the bench. Eventually, though, in 2005, Russell became the starting quarterback, leading the Tigers to a 10-1 record and the Southeastern Conference Division title. Russell was injured in the SEC championship game, which led to them throwing in backup Matt Flynn into the starting role for the Peach Bowl, where the Tigers eventually won 40-3. The very next season, Russell led the Tigers to a 10-2 record and a Super Bowl berth, where he was named Sugar Bowl MVP. In his final season, Russell was named to the All-SEC team. Following that season, Russell ended up declaring for the 2007 NFL Draft, finding his college career with a 62% completion percentage and 52 touchdowns against 21 interceptions. Now, following the scouting combine where Russell impressed teams with his top-tier throwing power and strength, Browns GM Phil Savage stated that his talent is substantial. He's a rare combination of size and arm strength. This ultimately led to Russell being chosen number 1 overall by the Oakland Raiders. It was actually revealed in 2015 that Matt Millen had warned former Oakland Raider owner Al Davis not to draft Russell in the 2007 draft. Russell had apparently struggled to pay attention during pre-draft interviews, so much that he was kicked out of Miller's office. Here's the quote from the radio show in which Matt Millen shared his story. "I keep talking to him. I ask him questions and he looks at his watch," Millen said. "I said, 'You got someplace you need to be?' And he goes, 'Oh, no. I'm sorry, sir.' So I ask him another question. He looks at his watch and I said, 'You're done. Get out of here.'" Millen said he then told Russell to go to see head coach Rod Marinelli, who later told Russell to leave his office as well. "So I'm done. I can't believe what I just witnessed, and so I call Al Davis," Millen said. "I get on the phone and I say, 'Coach, I don't know what you're thinking, but don't take Jamarcus Russell. Don't take Calvin Johnson, but don't take Jamarcus Russell.'" In his first NFL season, Russell held out until receiving a $68 million contract with nearly $32 million guaranteed. He played sparsely throughout his rookie season as he did not participate in training camp due to this holdout. In his second season, though, Russell was named the starting quarterback for the Raiders. In his first regular season start, the Raiders lost 41-14, although Russell played well. He finished 17 for 26 with 180 yards and 2 touchdowns. He would ultimately play relatively average for the remainder of the 2008 season, finishing 5-10 with 2,400 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 8 interceptions. In his third season, Russell was named starter once again. And this season would ultimately be his last, though, as he finished with the lowest quarterback rating, completion percentage, lowest passing touchdowns, and fewest yards among qualifying quarterbacks in the NFL. At the beginning of the 2010 NFL season, NBC stated that Russell arrived to minicamp weighing 290 pounds, and at one point a month later, reports even came out putting him over 300. Russell reportedly kept fighting for the starting job for the remainder of the offseason, but was released on May 6th and would go unsigned. He ended up working with John Lucas, a former NBA head coach and player. John Lucas attempted to help Russell with a return to the NFL, but ultimately cut all ties with Russell after a few months of relations due to his poor work ethic and drive. And Russell, despite several comeback attempts, even at one point offering all 32 NFL teams a chance to have him on their team for free for a year, never played another NFL down. So to wrap up this section, I want to try and pin down some of the largest reasons why these scouts messed up so badly. Clearly, the two biggest reasons for this bunch of busts were clouded minds and an inability to adjust to the NFL. Oftentimes, the top prospects in college football have some top prospects surrounding them both offensively and defensively. So when these players go from top-level coaching staff, supporting cast, and even more in their league to one of the worst coaching staffs and supporting cast in the NFL, it is extremely difficult to adjust. A player like Joe Burrow scares me, as the Bengals need the coaching staff along with the supporting cast to be near top tier in the NFL standards if they want to recreate what Burrow had at LSU. But the other thing comes with the inability to measure heart. It is extremely hard for teams to tell how hard a player will work to win and to win with their team. Some of the best quarterbacks in NFL history, such as Tom Brady, constantly show that work ethic, not only verbally, but behind the scenes as well. It's insanely difficult to measure this, but even when teams see signs of immaturity or inability to give their all for the sake of winning, they oftentimes ignore it in the name of raw talent, such as the accuracy or strength or mobility, and all of which can be overpowered by what's on the inside. A quarterback's drive and want to win. Their work ethic and their overall effort is what will separate them when the spotlight covers the field and the outcome of the game lies in their hands. So time and time again, we see these quarterback busts. We see these situations where teams spend the best picks in the league on arguably the worst players in the draft. Now, I'm not saying this always happens. There's players like Peyton Manning and other players throughout history that have ended up being really, really good quarterbacks. But it's at times really confusing and surprising when a team has all of this on the line, has the best experts in the league looking into it, interviewing these players, looking at every single stat they've ever had, and yet still get it wrong. And it's severely intriguing to me as to how an NFL team can put so much into one choice and yet still not get it right.